Hello, everyone, and welcome to another informative episode of the Florida Business Forum podcast. Let's open the Florida Business Forum floodgates and let the information begin to flow. Here's your Florida Business Forum information guru and anchorman, Sam Yates. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Florida Business Forum podcast. It is the number one rated business news forum in Florida, and I absolutely love it when the business news is flowing here on the Florida Business Forum because we're doing things that other people are not. And as you all know, we're right now in the political season. And what does that mean? Well, it means it's something that climbs all the way to the top of our political structure. There's a lot of questions going on right now about what is the leadership of America going to be perhaps in less than 2 weeks. Absolutely. That's a big question. So in particular, one of the things that caught my attention from a business standpoint is what is going to happen with small businesses and actually what's going to happen with medium and businesses of all sizes. So I've reached out to the Kamala Harris campaign, and I really thought that there would be interest from the Republican side of the equation as well. But I have to tell you, Republicans zero Kamala Harris on point by providing a spokesperson to share with us what the Harris Business Program is all about. And that person I'm very, very happy to welcome to the program today, Commissioner Jeremy Matlow, and he is seat 3, not District 3, seat 3 in Tallahassee's City Council. So welcome to the program today, Jeremy. It is my pleasure to have you on the Florida Business Forum.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here today to talk about whatever you want to talk about, my business experience, politics, wherever we go.
Well, it's a tradition for those that follow the program. They know that I always ask our guests to tell us a little bit about yourself. Now I know that you're active in a variety of areas, from whether it be the pizza business to the arts and culture, to a variety of things. But tell us about yourself, the personal side of Jeremy.
Yeah, so I'm a husband, father of 2 small boys. They're both young actors. They love the theater. But I was actually raised on the south side of Tallahassee. I was raised by a single mother of 4 kids, and most of our life we just struggled. So to be where I am today is probably not the trajectory a lot of people ended up in neighborhoods that I grew up in. But I was fortunate. The community in Tallahassee kind of took me in, made a great friend network, and really got my foot in the door in the restaurant industry, right in the shadow of Florida State's campus, and we've been growing ever since.
And that's a great spot to be, in the shadow of Florida State. I can speak to that because I believe that it's a great market there. I know that you're also involved in some other things besides the restaurant food service industry. Just to name a couple of them that I pulled out of some of the information, the regional transportation for the Tallahassee area, and that is something that you're heavily involved in. And I mentioned the arts and culture, but also building code. So those 3 in particular, why those areas? What makes them attractive for your input?
Yeah, I think they all go together. I started community service, serving on the code enforcement board. I started my business in a neighborhood where we were one of the first businesses to cut the bars off the windows. It was going through a lot of renovation. So I think that's always important to make sure we're taking care of our community. Arts and culture to the business community is huge. I mean, what a tourist draw, particularly to a community like Tallahassee. We get football, but we also get the arts. We have one arts district called Railroad Square, which draws people from all over the country, really. It's a top 10 art district in the country. So I think all of those things go together because really, business is driven by a good quality of life, and the arts, making sure, you mentioned the transportation industry, that gets a little more boring for most people, but it's also important, how we get to the places we're going, what our public infrastructure is to get there, really pushes us over the top.
Don't get me started on intermodal transportation. That's one of my favorite things. And if you got me started on that, we'd be here for hours. But you're right. Those are important things for the quality of life. Tough question, though. From your position as a commissioner, what's your biggest challenge if you had to say, this is what I strive to achieve or overcome every day? What's the biggest challenge?
As a commissioner, I think it's just bringing everybody to the table and building consensus. Everybody, I think, has a different version of where they want to see things go, how they want to get there. But at the end of the day, we recognize we all kind of want the same things. We want a better city for everyone. We want safer neighborhoods for our children and our communities. We want good paying jobs and a strong business culture. So just getting around kind of personal ideas and then the path to get there and really creating a cohesive vision to actually get things done. And that's the most difficult part.
You know, I take great pride in being somewhat of a strategist during interviews. I always set the stage so that I can seamlessly move from one thing to another. We know now that you have a real strong foundation in your community. We know that you have goals and aspirations. And I want to come back to one because I can see you being on a much larger political stage. So I'll come back to that. But I just sense it. And to be honest, some of the folks that I talk to get a little background on you, they sense it too. So I would say for our audience, he's a rising star. So let's keep an eye on Jeremy. But before I get into the Harris business plan, for example, what it means to our Florida businesses, a real serious question. And it stands along the line of ethics and lying by politicians. Is there a place for that? Because we're seeing a hell of a lot of it lately.
No, there's not. And I think that's what really is at stake in our entire democracy. I think where we see things start to crumble at the edge is when the public trust has been completely betrayed. So many people, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, baseline is politicians are lying to me. They're not representing to me. They're representing special interests. They're a bunch of crooks. So trying to serve in public office, we have to overcome that baseline that automatically what you're saying is a lie, because that's what people have been taught. So there shouldn't be a place for it at all. I think we need to all come together and really, that should be number one, political party aside. Will this person be honest and do things for the right reasons? And if we can get there, we can stop having some of the nonsense arguments we have and really get down to the business of improving our community. So I think we've seen a lot of that. I won't sugarcoat it. The former President Trump, threw gasoline on that fire. He told us not to trust the media, only to trust him, and he gave us false information. And that's a dangerous precedent that he set. But I think we need to turn the page and move in a new direction.
And again, I'm being strategic because I wanted to set the stage for us talking about business relations and what the Harris business plan means for our communities. And I think the honest approach that you have just outlined and the hurdles that many of in the political arena have to overcome to be honest means that you're going to be telling us right straight from the heart what you think about this plan. And one of the first things that caught my attention was the $50,000 tax credit. What does the plan mean from your vantage point for Florida businesses? We'll start with small businesses, but let's get an overall picture.
Yeah, I mean, I think what her plan shows is Kamala Harris, her administration, understands what it takes to start a small business. It's not easy. I'm in a business that has grown over the last 10 years. We employ hundreds of people now, but the hardest thing we ever did was year one. I didn't have a good credit score. We didn't have a lot of money. We just had a good idea and we were trying to force it through to get open. And we hit all the regulatory hurdles. It took a year longer than we thought it would to get open. We had to take some pretty terrible credit terms on some pretty terrible equipment just to get the doors open. But we were fortunate when we did, we had a good product and our community supported us. But we hear so much about supporting business being aimed at tax breaks for the people at the very top. Like if we just do these billionaire tax breaks, it's good for business. But there's so many people in our communities across the country that just have good ideas and they just need that little bit of extra assistance to get there. So recognizing it doesn't take millions of dollars in tax breaks or any of these other things for an individual. Just a $50,000 deduction can actually help a new company survive in that first year. And we know it's that first year is so important because so many companies fail. And so her recognizing we don't have to shoot for the moon. We just have to make things a little bit easier for the people who have a good idea, want to get into business, and help them succeed.
And you speak from the experience of being in business now. How long?
We are just about 11 years now.
Oh, wow. Wow. So,
In my current business, I've been an entrepreneur probably my entire life, but we
oh,
don't have to talk
that is
about the failures.
yeah. Being an entrepreneur is a curse because you never can say, I quit, because the moment one door closes, another opens. So, I have to give you a pat on the back for that. It's a trait that not everyone has, but when you have it, you always have that notebook beside your bed that you're going to wake up in the middle of the night and go, ha ha. So let's do this. But let's turn back to the Harris plan. The $50,000 tax credit is one. She's also talking about cutting taxes, cutting taxes on tips and other things. Reality is these the things that could work. Will they work?
Yeah, I think so. I think again, Kamala Harris's campaign, you would think they've actually talked to small business owners. They actually dug in and looked at the details. So we look at streamlining the process to even file your taxes to make it more like an individual can, because business owners are good at what they do. We're not necessarily experts in the regulatory environment, the tax code, and all those sorts of things. So making it easy for people to get their foot in the door again is great. But the other thing that Kamala Harris is recommending, which we hear from everybody, is just access to capital, particularly low interest rates or zero interest rates for startup. The biggest hurdle when you have an idea. So I'm not from a family that inherited millions of dollars from my father and was able to help me start a business. For people who are trying to start it from the ground up, getting a bank to approve a loan, getting a bank to buy into your idea is difficult. It's difficult for everyone. And I think the Harris campaign recognizes if we can make it just a little bit easier to access startup capital, make the interest rates actually affordable. And interest rates are going down now, by the way. I hear economists say if Donald Trump gets reelected, interest rates may go back up, inflation may skyrocket again. But her being focused on what people are actually saying, the needs of our community, the needs of the business community, is frankly refreshing from a presidential candidate.
We don't hear so much about infrastructure, but as I look at the skyline behind you for Tallahassee, and I know that you're on that transportation focus as well. What could the Kamala Harris plan, mean for infrastructure? Let's take Tallahassee for example. What could it mean for Tallahassee?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying since I've been elected, even the Biden administration has invested more money in local government and local infrastructure than I've seen in my entire lifetime. So, I mean, we're doing really cool things in Tallahassee. Our regional airport is becoming an international airport. By the federal government investing in the transportation there, we'll be able to accept international flights starting, I believe, as soon as next year. We're really pushing to expand passenger rail through our community to link Tallahassee back to New Orleans, which is a popular destination in our area. But then even the more boring stuff is, do we have the public transit within our city? Can people get from population centers to their jobs? We just welcomed an Amazon facility to our community, and the biggest conversation was, is there going to be a bus route to get there? Are there going to be ways for people with lower incomes to actually reap the benefits of those things coming to town? And I think what we've been able to do through an acronym, the CRTPA, the Capital Regional Transportation Planning Agency, is have those conversations. we're a growing city. We're seeing people coming from other counties and making sure our road networks can handle the capacity, but also know that transit's changing. Young people are driving less, they're using rideshare more, there's a more of interest in walkability, pedestrian, cyclist infrastructure. So it all combines the one, and it really is what makes a city cool. It's what makes a city, special, that you can come, you're not gridlocked in traffic all day, and you can actually enjoy the arts amenities that we talked about earlier, or, grab a beer at a local brewery.
And, I have to say that Tallahassee becomes a city in the spotlight with great regularity. So whatever it is that you're working on there, it's going to be seen by folks from all over the state, leaders, whether they be at a state level or down to a local or county level. They're going to be in Tallahassee at some point in their career. So you're really setting the stage there. So what you're having to tell us and what you're sharing with us, I think, is a message that can be taken back to our many local communities. And before I pass on to another topic, when you're talking about regional airport, I'll put a bug in your ear: heliports. I'm hearing from a lot of industries and my connections with the engineering and aviation aerospace. Heliports could be one of the next intermodal hotspots. So just for what that's worth, and I'll be glad to chat with you offline a little bit more if you'd like at some time in the future. Home building industry. Tallahassee, our legislators there have a great impact on what is happening within the home building industry. And of course, the Florida Home Builders Association is headquartered there in Tallahassee, and I'm closely aligned with them as an executive of a builders association, the East Coast of Florida, the Gold Coast Builders Association. But will the Kamala Harris plan have a positive impact as far as helping bring about affordable workforce housing? What's your read there?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is issue number one for local governments, because it's probably what's pressuring the people we represent the most. We hear it more and more. We're getting priced out, not just on being able to purchase a home, but to be able to rent a home. We've seen people tell us that they had to leave our community because they couldn't afford to live here. And that's not what anybody wants. So I think the Harris campaign, Kamala Harris understands the need to supercharge, the inventory of homes we have in our country. I think they're proposing building 20 million new homes. That huge impact. If we can interject that many new homes, we can start to get pricing under control. I think there's other things we can do as well. But I'll tell you what, I think she's the only presidential candidate talking about how serious of an issue that is, and probably every person has felt that strain. Whether they're trying to buy a new home, realizing they can't buy quite the home that they thought they could afford, or if they're renting and they've seen their rent go up last year, the year before that, and they're just asking, where does it end? So we have an important role here, both at local officials and at the federal level, to see how we can partner together. And I think that's what's most exciting about a Kamala Harris administration, is that they're looking to partner with local communities to find real solutions that help people and address the needs that we're facing.
One of the things I do as a journalist at heart is I often look beyond the very visible headline and realize sometimes there are unintended consequences for things that politicians want to do. In Florida, 37% of the construction workforce is immigrant. 30% of the workforce within the healthcare industry is immigrant. And also in the food service, the number is very, very high. What would happen, that unintended consequence, if we were to pull out millions of immigrants from our communities? What would that mean to our local businesses?
It would be detrimental. If every immigrant in our community disappeared tomorrow, businesses will close left and right. There'd be the labor pool would dry up so quickly that a market would take hold, and some businesses would make it, some would fail. I think what we have to recognize is we are such a great country. We're the land of opportunity, which is why, so many of us have so much pride in the United States. But when we talk about that question, um, specifically, we always seem to have these kind of fear mongers that try to, they took your job, all these sorts of things that, frankly aren't true. Just a few years ago, the labor market was so tight, we were struggling to find employees. We don't need less employees, we needed more employees in hospitality and the restaurant industry and the building industry. There's such a demand for more plumbers. There's a demand for more electricians. So it's a complete fallacy that immigrants are hurting the workforce, and in effect, they're actually helping our growth. If we didn't have immigrants in our community that can work some of these jobs, we wouldn't have the ability to continue to grow companies. So, it's unfortunate how that conversation, I think, has devolved over the years. But, personally, I grew up working in the restaurant industry. When I opened my business, I mean, we worked probably 18 hours a day. So anybody who's willing to show up and put in a hard day's work and earn a paycheck, I'm glad they're here.
A week ago, here on this program, we had the president and CEO of the National Housing Endowment as our guest. And one of the things that you just touched upon was something that we spent quite a lot of time on, and that is the labor force. Our youth today are looking at different avenues for their future. And somehow in that equation, we have to get our youth more involved in our trades, whether it be construction, plumbing. What are your thoughts on that as it relates to the funding that's available through the Kamala Harris business plan? A good thing to invest in our youth?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what we're seeing is what's most important is that we have good jobs available and they pay an honest living to where you can achieve, what was the American dream. You can support your family. You can afford to buy a home. You can afford to take a vacation, all of those sorts of things. So I think, we started to see a decline in wages that drove people away from some careers and maybe got top heavy on trying to get into careers that were actually paying decently. So I think we're starting to see a rebalance of the worth of everyday people and the labor that they put in, and I think that's great. And I think it's just night and day when you look at what Kamala Harris is talking about and what drives an economy, the backbones, working people, strong unions, all of those things are what made America great. And then you contrast that with a Trump administration that's tax cuts for billionaires, let's run out these immigrants, be angry at each other, all of these things. It's nothing about growing and making ourselves better. It's all about tearing us down. So it's just so refreshing to have a president who can go on a debate stage and say, hey, I understand, I get it. We're going to make things better for businesses, but not just businesses. We care about the workers as well.
We've covered a lot of territory. Jeremy, is there anything that we have not touched upon that you feel is important to convey to our audience about the Kamala Harris business plan as it pertains to business here in Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, just as a business owner, I've operated a business under the Biden administration, the Trump administration, and I can honestly say our business is doing better today than it ever has. So I've complete confidence in looking at the proposals from Donald Trump, looking at the proposals from Kamala Harris. In 4 years, if we want to be doing even better, we should go with Kamala Harris. She has the plan. She has the right policies that she's presenting. And frankly, like, as a small business owner, Donald Trump isn't speaking to me. He hasn't said anything that really appeals to somebody in a town like Tallahassee. Raising their family, starting businesses, starting new restaurants, trying to grow their businesses, trying to manage our employees and make sure they're taken care of as well. Like, we don't hear that message from Donald Trump, and we hear it from Kamala Harris. So to me, the choice is very clear.
Now, I'm going to ask probably a question that may not be too fair, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless because I'm a reporter kind of guy. What do you see in your political future?
My political future, well, look, I've had a lot of fortune serving the people of Tallahassee. I love Tallahassee. I love this community. I've been serving as a city commissioner for 6 years. I'm on the hook for 2 more years, but I'd like to continue to serve. I do think I'd likely run for mayor of Tallahassee on my next term in 2 years, and after that, we'll take it day by day. But I think to me, I want to make Tallahassee the best place it can be, and I think we still got a lot of work to do there.
State, national on the horizon, perhaps?
Hey, we'll see. If you want to run my campaign, maybe I'll sign up, but we'll see.
Keep me in mind. I always like to follow those who are born leaders, and you're filling that position today. The absolute toughest question of the entire program is always my last question. We've been here, we've had a conversation. At some point in the future, would you be able to come back and give us an update after the elections and say, here's what happened and here's my thoughts on why this happened or did not happen? Can you come back again in the future?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I think, celebrating success is more fun than fighting for what's right sometimes.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Commissioner Matlow, once again, it has been my pleasure to have you as my guest here on the Florida Business Forum, and we look forward to having you come back again in the future.
Great. Thank you so much.
In the meantime, until our next episode of the Florida Business Forum podcast, I'm Sam Yates. Have a great day, everyone.
The Florida Business Forum is dedicated to showcasing Florida businesses and CEOs of all sorts to promote their business or not-for-profit in the only business forum of its type in Florida. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, the Florida Business Forum is now accepting guest applications. Have a great day, everyone, and stay tuned for more business.